Thanks, Philip, and welcome to Today in Putnam County. Thank you for joining us this morning. Hope you're having a great Saturday morning. My goal with the show is to interview the people making all the great things happen in our county, so let's get started. My guest this morning is Amy Stockwell, who is the Executive Director of the Upper Cumberland Family Justice Center. Good morning, Amy.
Good morning, Randy.
Thanks for being here. I appreciate you doing the show this morning.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity.
We go back a long ways. We probably won't tell how far, but I got to give a shout out to your dad. Your dad's Doug McBroom, who was the county executive for many years that I worked for, and just a really great guy and a joy to work for. The genes kind of passed down into your generation. You have a lot of his attributes, I think, being so good to work with, and I think that fits in good with your job. So.
Thanks, Randy. That's a great compliment.
Tell him I said hi. You're involved in the program called what we call the Family Justice Center. That name may be confusing to some of our listeners because normally you think of justice, you think of court and judges and all those kind of things, but that's not really what it's about, is it?
Well, we work with a lot of different partners, so we do work with those court systems, but people get confused about whether they're supposed to go over by the jail or if they're coming to the Family Justice Center, and so those things are separate. We are designated to provide victim services. So,
well, when you talk about Family Justice Center, the big thing we're talking about is domestic violence.
That's the majority of the clients that we see.
So, give us an overview with the Family Justice Center of what that does for those domestic abuse clients that you see, what you offer them with the Family Justice Center.
Well, the Family Justice Center was created to be very victim-oriented. So I'm going to say that first, because we don't, if you come in to report domestic violence to us, that doesn't mean you have to report it to law enforcement. We keep all of that information confidential. The services that are provided are the ones that are requested. So they're very much in control of what goes on at the Family Justice Center as far as their case goes. Mm-hmm. But we provide a wide array of services. We have over 30 partners that have agreed to provide services in conjunction with the Family Justice Center or even at the Family Justice Center. So if somebody comes in and they need shelter, then we'll work with Genesis House to provide that. And they can do all of those things at one location. So we say we keep the lights on and the doors open. So you can walk in anytime, 9 to 4, Monday through Friday. You don't have to have an appointment, and it's on your schedule.
And so these are for folks that are in a domestic violence situation at home. In most cases, it's both men and women and children. I mean, you see all kinds of things, I'm sure, but that a lot of cases it's the female that's scared, doesn't know where to go or what to do, so they walk into your office, and you've got all these partners then that basically meet every need that person's going to need to get them out of that situation.
We try our best to meet every need. Of course, there's always limitations to what we can do, but we've been able to find some creative solutions. I tell my staff that we're problem solvers. So when somebody brings us a problem, we can usually develop a plan for them. Maybe they don't want to leave right now and they want to stay in the house, so we can safety plan with them. Mm-hmm. We can talk about the options later on. We have people who come in that are in crisis, and as you know, it's difficult to make decisions and think in a step-by-step process at that time. So we tell them, all you have to do is remember to come back here or call us, and we'll remember the steps for you. So do this one thing, and then call us back.
So if they're wanting to get out of the situation they're in, you also offer housing for them, and sometimes you see people that don't, they live with nothing from their home, and they're needing clothes and toiletries and food and all kinds of things. You're able to help them with all those?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a lot of people. The housing, I'm sure you know, the housing issue is everywhere, but we do our best. We work with some of the voucher programs through other grant programs, and then the emergency housing with the shelters across the state.
We're talking with Amy Stockwell this morning with the Family Justice Center. Amy, I remember when the program first started. I took office, I think, 2014, and we started this in about 2015. We knew we needed to do something in Putnam County. We didn't want to recreate the wheel. It had already been started in Knoxville that we knew about. We took a trip up there. We kind of found out pretty quick, though, that what works in the big city does not necessarily work in rural America when you start looking at Putnam County and the counties around us. But Knoxville helped us a lot to get started, didn't it?
They did. They were a great role model for us. It was the city-county partnership, and they had a building that really focused a lot on that client safety. I think that informed a lot of our decisions, too, that maybe we didn't think about before we went down there. But they helped us with funding issues, and just to see, it made a whole lot of difference to see what a family justice center looked like.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know.
We didn't know. We knew we had an issue. We knew we wanted to do something. We had a group that was coming together to see what they had been able to put together and do in Knoxville. I thought was amazing with the building and the things they did, which got us on the right track then. Talk a little bit about how that got started then. Once we went to Knoxville and saw how that worked, we brought it back here, but it wasn't easy in the beginning to get it all going, was it?
No, it wasn't easy, but it wouldn't feel as rewarding, I suppose, if it hadn't been
Yeah.
a challenge. But I think the worst thing for us, the issue that we faced, was different than other locations because we couldn't find a building, a
Right.
location that was suitable for what we were trying to do. So that was the thing, and we wanted it to look like Knoxville's, and it doesn't. It looks like ours,
Right.
but. That was the thing that we faced. A lot of other family justice centers have trouble with partnerships and people wanting to work together, and everybody staying in their silos, as they say. And we've never had that problem here. So just bragging on you and the other board members.
Well, and it's a thing in Putnam County where we do everything as a team. And
Absolutely.
we came together with this. This program is not funded with any tax dollars, which is what is amazing to me. The county commission passed a fee that goes on court cases.
Right. So for certain crimes that are committed, those offenders then pay a court fee once that's adjudicated. So if they're found to be guilty or plead guilty to certain offenses, then we collect some money from that, so it goes directly to help those victims that they helped to create, I guess.
What a great idea is that the offenders, the one that created these issues, are the ones that are paying for the Family Justice Center.
That sounds fair to me.
I think so too, and I applaud the county commission back then for starting that and putting the fee on those court cases. It also allows us then to file for grants with the state and with the feds that brings in over $300,000 of
I think
grants each
this
year to
next
fund the
year
program.
it'll be over 400,000.
Isn't that amazing? What a great program that we're helping people that are involved in domestic violence. The people that are causing the domestic violence are the ones that are paying for it with the court fees, which is about $40,000 a year. That allows us to apply for these other grants and fund the whole program without any tax dollars.
Yeah, that's a lot of economic development in a way, because people who can't work or whatever because of domestic violence has been a huge problem. But if we can get those people independent, and then it's a lot of, if you've got somebody that's a victim of domestic violence, it's hard on employers.
It is.
So everything in the community touches everybody.
It's kind of all a
else.
big circle, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're listening to Today in Putnam County on News Talk 107.7 and 1400 The Hub. I'm Randy Porter, your host. More with Amy Stockwell from the Family Justice Center after a break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Today in Putnam County. I'm your host, County Mayor Randy Porter. I hope you're having a great Saturday morning. Today my guest is Amy Stockwell, and we're talking about our Family Justice Center. Amy, we have a major problem not only in Putnam County but in our country with domestic violence, which is affecting a lot of families and destroying a lot of families. You see it on a daily basis. Is there an answer to fixing it?
I think the answer is, ultimately our goal is to break that cycle, but that's not something that happens in one generation. But I think that shining a light on it and saying domestic violence is not okay, for so long it was something that was kept in the dark and it was a family problem.
Yeah.
But to say, no, this is not okay and there are consequences for this behavior and there are resources for those people who have been victims or even survivors of domestic violence, then that's what we're hoping, that we give these comprehensive services and somebody's able to break that cycle with their children.
So it's a generational thing that dad does it, son does it, passes it on down from generation to generation, and it's kind of like anything else with homelessness or all the other things that we have affecting our country. You got to break that cycle.
You do, and we see that a lot. I think if you are a child in a home that has had domestic violence, then you're 4 times more likely to become a victim.
Wow.
And then I forgot what the percentage is to become an abuser. So those behaviors are learned, and you may not become the victim. You may, as a child, have those tendencies to lash out with and control. And I always say it's not really about the violence, it's about the control. So that's another thing about domestic violence is some people don't even realize that they're living in a home with domestic violence because it might not be that violent component. A lot of times somebody doesn't have to resort to violence. They just want to control that person's behavior. They want it to suit their needs. So it may be financial, it may be
Right.
emotional. They may use the children to control their wife or their husband's behavior. So it's a very complicated issue, but if you look at it from that lens, that it's about somebody controlling somebody else's
Yeah.
behavior, then it becomes a little clearer about
So
what we
everyone,
can do.
so everyone that walks into your office is not physically abused. You've got the mental abuse. You've got the controlling. There's all kinds of different folks. Every case different.
That jealousy and controlling, the stalking, that is really scary. All of them are different, and then you can dig down to figure out what that
is.
what that goal of the control was. And
Amazing. Do you think our drug problem that we have, opioid and illegal drug problem that we have in the country, is that causing any of this, or just maybe making it worse?
I think it definitely makes it worse. A lot of times, too, it's not only the abuser who's addicted to some sort of substance, but a lot of times victims are vulnerable because of their substance abuse and feel like they can't leave that home
So
because of that.
are they self-medicating themselves, basically?
Yeah, we call it, it's multi-layered. There's a lot
Right.
of times there's the violence and then the self-medication and, destructive behaviors
To try
based on that.
They're in a bad situation and they're trying to self-medicate themselves with drugs, so they kind of get a break from it, I guess.
Or
in
perhaps
their
they're
mind.
addicted and their abuser is the person who provides
It's
the
provided.
substance. So
Wow. A lot of different scenarios. I was looking at some of the stats that we have from the Family Justice Center. 22% of the victims are men or male.
they are, yeah.
So this is not just a female thing. You're seeing it on both sides.
Absolutely, and we know that the stats say that nationally, that 1 in 7 men will be victims of domestic violence and 1 in 4 women. I believe that the male victimization is way underreported.
Well, underreported. Yeah, a lot of them are ashamed to
Right.
do it. Also, about 10% of the folks are minority.
Yeah, about 10%, and that includes all minorities. But I think that gives us sort of, and we're seeing the cross section of what makes up our county. So
Our
we're hoping.
population,
Yeah.
kind of fits into that. We're different from some of the other family justice centers across the state. We're a regional center. We're looking at not only helping the folks in Putnam County, but reaching out to our neighboring counties that we work with on a daily basis. New office about to open up in Livingston. That's exciting,
right. That's
isn't it?
big news. We just found out. So we're going to open up. This will be the first satellite location in Tennessee in their statewide initiative. So they're looking at us to do it right, Randy. I'm glad that we have your leadership.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and yours too. And it's always great when we see the other folks in the state using Putnam County's program to use as an example for the other places in the state to do. I know Governor Bill Lee, which I think he's doing a great job, and he's really pushing for us to reach the underserved communities or the stressed counties that we have in our region. We have several: Clay, Pickett, Jackson, Van Buren, just to name a few. How are we going to do that?
Well, that was the reason that we chose Overton County for our first satellite, because we really needed to reach out to Pickett and Clay because their isolation makes them much more underserved as far as resources. Now, there are resources there, but they're more scattered because their population is more scattered. So we're hoping that by cutting the distance in half, then that having that full-fledged family justice center in Livingston will help to reach those folks as well.
Clay County, Fentress County, we're hearing about some of our counties with the hospitals closing, businesses closing, loss of jobs. Are those stressors
Absolutely.
for the domestic violence?
Absolutely.
And,
Yes.
and so those counties, they already have problems, and you put all these other things into place now with the loss of jobs, and that increases the domestic violence incidents that you see in those counties.
We believe so, and if you look at their statistics right now, as far as the calls that are reported, they have a much higher percentage, just generally speaking, in more rural counties like Clay and Pickett of domestic violence than, any of their crimes against persons as it's classified.
So is it a rural thing that the higher percentages, is that pretty well across the country, or is that just in our area, do you think?
I know that it's in our area. I'm not sure if I could make an educated comment on the other rural counties, because there aren't other family justice centers. We do have a sister center that is in the Family Justice Center Alliance in Scott County. So we're working, they just opened last year, so we're working closely with them. We have a lot in common with what they're doing, so, but they definitely have a high amount of domestic violence compared to other crimes.
So when we start looking at all these counties in our region, of course in the Upper Cumberland region we have 14 counties. We started out in Putnam in 2015. We're now moving to Overton in 2019. Do you see us at some point in time being able to have one of these in every county?
I don't know that we could do one in every county just based on the population. But that's not to say that we wouldn't have a part-time center. You know, those are things that we've been talking about since we opened in 2015, how to best serve that regional population. So, I mean, we have toyed with the idea. I know that in Chattanooga, they have a center. They meet in a church, I think, 2 days a week. So we're looking at all those options, and a lot will inform our decision about how things work in Overton County. I think that'll give us an idea maybe about where we need to go next.
And maybe not have one in every county, but we have one in several of the counties, and so maybe the people only have to drive one county over instead of having to drive all the way to Cumberland for everything.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. You're listening to Today in Putnam County on News Talk 107.7 and 1400 The Hub. I'm Randy Porter, your host. Coming up after the break, more with Amy in the Family Justice Center, so stay with us. Welcome back to Today in Putnam County. I'm your host, County Mayor Randy Porter. Hope you're having a great weekend. I'm talking with Amy Stockwell this morning about domestic violence and our Family Justice Center that deals with that on a day-to-day basis. Amy, it's not only about domestic violence. A big part of what you see is abuse.
We see different forms of abuse. The domestic violence is by far the most, but we work with clients who are elder abuse victims, sexual assault victims, and we see some child abuse that normally we refer that to another organization, but a lot of times it's the first stop because people aren't sure how to report it.
How to report it. Elder abuse, I guess I never thought about that ever being an issue, where that you have people that are abusing their parents, grandparents. It can even be abuse in a facility that's happening. We had a local facility here that you've been reading about in the newspaper where there was elder abuse by the employees, abusing and stealing the senior citizens' money, their medications. That's got to be that's sad. I know this whole thing is sad with all these things we're having, but the abuse clients that you have coming in, how do you deal with that on a day-to-day basis?
We focus on how we can help them. It is sad to see some of our extremely vulnerable elderly, residents who are living in a situation like that, and that is extremely low, I'd say, on the reporting scale based on what's actually happening, because they're afraid they're going to, lose their home, be forced to live somewhere in conditions that they don't want to, so they choose to stay in that situation, and they don't have to. We work closely with Adult Protective Services to try to prevent that and, let them keep their independence, but be free from that violence.
Right. So there's no limit as to with the Family Justice Center. There's not an age limit. There's you can't boil it down to any one thing. You'll take or talk to whoever comes to the center, regardless of the situations, and I like that. It's all about trying to help those folks.
We feel like we've collected the resources, and we want to make sure we use that knowledge in the best way that we can. So certainly, we encourage people to call if they just wonder if it's something we can help with. And a lot of times people do that initially. Just
for information. You started a new program, community response type program, also involves LAP, and I want you to talk about that the rest of the state is looking at what we created and using it as an example across the state.
Yes, we're really proud about that. Before we actually opened our doors, we decided we wanted to act like a Family Justice Center before we had the doors to open. So we created, as part of our coordinated community response with law enforcement, we didn't develop this, we adopted it from the Maryland model, but it's a lethality assessment screen that's done on site at a domestic. Not all domestics, just certain domestics, but it is a evidence-based, for 30 years of research, tool that actually can predict lethality or somebody's likelihood of being killed by their intimate partner.
Wow.
So there are 11 questions that an officer might ask on a scene. And then if they answer certain questions yes, that automatically makes them high danger. So if they are high danger, it institutes a protocol where the officer reaches out to the domestic violence service provider, like Genesis House. So the reason we did this is there was a gap in services between law enforcement and maybe victims who'd see domestic violence service providers. So 44% of women who were killed the year before had dealt with law enforcement, but only 4% had had any interaction with a domestic violence service provider. So this forms that bridge so that they're on our radar as well.
So you're working with our local law enforcement to hit these folks when they're called in, they're on calls, they see this, so that we can work with them, and hopefully it doesn't ever get to that point.
A lot of times that's the first chance that we have, so we want to reduce that time that it takes us to get them other services.
Well, that's great. Amy, you're an attorney. You could have done, you could be somewhere else, you could do anything else, you could be in your own practice. What makes you want to do Family Justice Center?
I love my job. I feel like I make a difference here and that I'm useful. So, if I felt like I could be an attorney and help in more ways, then maybe I would do that. But I feel like I belong here now.
You got that heart for helping folks. That's great. If someone is listening this morning and they're a victim of domestic violence or abuse, or even if they know someone that is, how can they get help? How do they contact you?
They can, telephone is always, if they want to, that number is 931-528-1512. They can look on our website too. It's ucfamilyjusticecenter.org. Or they are welcome to come visit us at our location. They can walk in 9 to 4 Monday through Wednesday, and we're located at 269 South Willow Avenue, Suite E.
Suite E. Amy, you're doing a great job. I'm so happy that we have you in the Family Justice Center, and that you had this vision of what we could do, and it's absolutely great. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you, Randy.
Amy Stockwell with the Family Justice Center. It's now time for What's Happening, part of the show where I keep you informed on some of the special events going on in Putnam County. Tonight, Movies in the Park starts at 8:30. We have Disney's Ralph Breaks the Internet, and then starting next Friday at 8:30, the movie in Dogwood Park will be Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And then the following Friday night on June the 28th, How to Train Your Dragon. All of these are free, lots of family fun, so go out to Dogwood Park tonight, and then Friday, June 21st and Friday, June 28th. Saturday, June 22nd at 6 p.m., the 2019 Summer Splash 5K starting at Dogwood Park. Proceeds go to benefit local cancer patients, and it's sponsored by Roland Media. Monday, June the 24th at 7:30, the Cumberland Community Band will be performing in Dogwood Park. Admission is free. Go by and see them. They're a great band. They do a great job. Saturday, June the 29th at 3 p.m., a tribute to the bands, the Eagles and Journey at the Cumberland Performing Arts Center on Broad Street. The event is sponsored by Cumberland Leisure Services. Go by and check that out. Saturday, June the 29th, that starts our week of Red, White, and Boom celebration. Starts off with the car cruise and car show at the Putnam County Fairgrounds from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Then on Thursday, July the 4th, starting at 10 a.m., festivities will start around the courthouse with our 4th of July Kids Parade. Registration lineup begins at 9 a.m. at the corner of Free Street in North Washington. Registration is free, so kids, decorate up your bicycles, wagons, or whatever you can drive, push or pull, or ride, and come and be in our 4th of July parade. Immediately following that, at around 10:30, we're having our patriotic ceremony at the west lawn of the courthouse following the parade. There we'll be honoring some of our local veterans. And then, after that, we have a special lunch for all of our veterans immediately following. At 5 p.m. on July the 4th, everything moves to the fairgrounds for the Red, White, and Boom. Lots of great family fun. We've got free concerts with Jake Hoot and the Smoky Knights, bounce houses and games for the kids, food trucks, and then the finale is the fireworks, which begins at 8:45. All of this is free, so come out and join us. And then as the week of 4th of July ends, Saturday, July 6th and Sunday, July the 7th, Slide Cookville starts on downtown at Broad Street. It runs Saturday from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. and then Sunday from 12 noon to 8 p.m. a full week of red, white, and boom celebration here in Cookeville, Putnam County. And then coming up this week, we have a very special event, which is June the 17th through the 21st. We have the National Caving Convention coming to Putnam County. An estimated 1,200 cavers will be converging on Cookeville for its annual conference. Cavers will be holding educational classes at the Cookeville High School and then visiting our numerous caves, pits, falls, and natural resources. Lots of them will be camping at our fairgrounds and staying in our hotels, so please make them feel welcome as they bring lots of tourism revenue to our city and county. And that's today's What's Happening. For more details on any of these events, go to my website, randyporter.org, or my mayor's Facebook page at Putnam County, Tennessee. If you have an event you would like mentioned, please message or email me. This morning, I'll leave you with some things to think about. We've been talking this morning with Amy Stockwell about our Family Justice Center and the nationwide problem we have with domestic violence and abuse. Many families and individual lives are destroyed by this horrific problem. The key to this problem is education and reporting. If you know of someone in a domestic violence or abuse situation, please report it. Thousands of people are abused every year, and a lot of it goes unreported. If we want to see the problem reduced, we have to get involved, folks. And finally, our county lost a true leader this week with the passing of longtime Rescue Squad Chief Russ Cyphers. Russ was instrumental in the forming of the Rescue Squad and County Fire Department, which he served on for many years. He was also an EMT with Putnam EMS and served multiple terms as a county commissioner. Russ was one of the most caring and compassionate individuals I've had the pleasure of knowing. He basically dedicated his life to helping people, responding to thousands of emergency calls during his emergency service career. Our community is a better place thanks to all his generosity over the years. I'm a little partial, as he was my father-in-law, but gauging by the outpouring of love and condolences over the past week, I don't think I was alone. Rest in peace, Russ Cyphers. That's our show for today. I want to thank my guest, Amy Stockwell, again for being here with the Family Justice Center. Hope you'll join us every Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. for Today in Putnam County on News Talk 107.7 and 1400 The Hub. You can also download the WHUB app and listen to us on your cell phone. If you missed any of our shows, go to my website at randyporter.org. As always, thanks to Marconi Award winner Brent Carl Fleshman for producing my show each week. I'm County Mayor Randy Porter. Hoping you have a great rest of your Saturday, and may God continue to bless our great county.